They said I was forgetful, that my mind wandered too far and too often. They laughed when I asked about the money, the house, the jewelry, all the things I once called mine. They told the neighbors I was not well, that I needed rest, a home nurse, silence. I used to sit at the head of the dining table in this house. Now I sit alone in the attic, beside boxes of things that don't even belong to me anymore. But I remember everything, every signature they forged, every smile they gave when they took one more piece of me. I might be old. I might be forgotten. But I am not finished. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Welcome to A Tale of Betrayal, Shadows, and Strength. This is the story of Margaret Hollings, a woman who gave her life to her family, only to be discarded like yesterday's papers. But what her family didn't know is that some women, even when pushed to the brink, don't shatter. They sharpen. They strike back. It began the way all betrayals do, with trust. Thomas, my eldest, has always had a voice like Arthur's. Deep, calm, full of assurance. It's why I trusted him when he first said he'd help me manage the estate. Arthur had only been gone for 6 weeks. I was still folding his sweaters like he might walk back through the door any moment. I wasn't ready to deal with the bills, the legal notices, the numbers. Thomas came with folders and spreadsheets and that quiet voice of his. "Mom, you don't have to worry about a thing," he told me, sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of black coffee. "Dad would have wanted me to look after you." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He brought me documents to sign, explained them in soft tones, used words like streamlining, consolidation, trust protection. It sounded responsible, sensible. I didn't read every line. My eyes were tired, and the print was so small. And he was my son. The baby I carried during the hottest summer of 1969, who once clung to my skirt whenever strangers came to the door. I signed. Then came Emma. Sweet-faced, sharp-tongued Emma, who always knew how to dress for a funeral and how to weaponize a compliment. "Mom," she said one day, "you should really put your jewelry somewhere safe. You've been forgetting things lately." "I'm not forgetting," I told her, but the words fell flat. "You said that last week," she replied. "And then you accused the gardener of stealing your bracelet." I had, but I was right, he did steal it. It turned up at a pawn shop 2 towns over. Emma never apologized for calling me paranoid. She just said, "Well, at least you got it back," and that was the end of it. Still, she insisted on taking the rest of the jewelry for safekeeping. My grandmother's sapphire ring. The diamond brooch Arthur gave me on our 40th anniversary. All wrapped in velvet, kissed on the cheek, and taken away in her purse. I didn't see them again. Jacob was the quiet one. Always has been. He didn't ask me for anything, not directly. But when the pension checks stopped arriving, he didn't offer to help either. Just looked down at his shoes and said, "Maybe the system messed up, Mom. You know how it is." Yes, I know exactly how it is. The house began to change around me. Emma said the living room needed modernizing. She painted over the wood paneling Arthur installed with his own hands. Thomas replaced the dining table with a glass monstrosity that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby. Jacob, of all people, boxed up my framed photographs and replaced them with abstract art. "It's more neutral," he said. My bedroom was the last sanctuary. Until they decided Emma's daughter needed it more than I did. "She has online classes," Emma said. "She needs quiet space. You understand, right, Mom?" I nodded, but I didn't understand. They moved my things to the attic. A single bed, an old armchair, boxes I wasn't allowed to open for safety reasons. I was told the steps were dangerous, the insulation faulty. But that's where they put me. Out of sight, out of mind. And yet I saw everything. They called meetings without me, made decisions in hushed tones. I heard Emma once, on the phone with her husband, laughing about how much she could sell the house for once it was fully cleared out. I wasn't even dead yet. That was the night I began looking through the boxes again. I found the letters first. Arthur's handwriting, his steady cursive, filling page after page with notes about our finances, our plans, his concerns about the children's entitlement. Then I remembered the panel, the one in his study bookshelf. It used to squeak when you touched it, and though the study had been converted into some sterile yoga room, the bookshelf was still there, now filled with fake plants and decorative bowls. I waited until the house was empty. The family had gone to a gallery opening for one of Emma's friends. I walked into the study, closed the door behind me, and pressed the old spot on the shelf. It gave way. Inside was a yellowing envelope marked in the event of my death. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was the original will, Arthur's will, not the one Thomas showed me with his carefully highlighted sections and fake notary stamp. Arthur's will left everything to me until my passing. No clauses, no exceptions. The house, the estate, the investments. I was still the rightful owner. But according to Thomas, I had transferred ownership months ago. That night, I didn't cry. I sat in the attic and stared at the wall, listening to the silence. And then I began to plan. They stole everything, but I still have the truth. And I'm going to burn their lies down with it. There are different kinds of pain in this world. The sharp, sudden sting of loss, like when Arthur's heart gave out one spring morning before he could finish his toast. And then there is the slower kind, the kind that comes not from one moment, but from many. 1,000 small betrayals that, by themselves, might be forgivable. But stitched together, they become something monstrous. Something permanent. The erosion of my dignity didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual theft, like waves pulling sand away from a shore until the cliff gives way and crashes into the sea. The first piece of me they took was my voice. They didn't silence me with violence. That would have been too obvious, too crude. No, they used kindness like a noose. Every decision was made for my own good. The medications they gave me, just to help you sleep better. The nurse they hired, just to keep an eye on things. I didn't ask for her. I didn't want a stranger watching me fold laundry. But Thomas insisted. "Mom, you've been forgetting things," he said. "This is just to keep things safe." Safe. That word again. It had become a weapon. Soon after, the visits to the bank stopped. I didn't need to go, they said. "Everything's automated now," Emma chirped. "We've linked your account to ours so we can manage it better." Manage it. A nice word for control. The second piece they took was my place. I once hosted every holiday meal in this house. Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays. My roast beef and Yorkshire pudding were the stuff of family legend. But last Thanksgiving, they held the dinner at Emma's house. I wasn't invited until the day before. An afterthought. When I arrived, wearing the dress Arthur always said made me look like royalty, I found myself seated at the far end of a table I didn't recognize, surrounded by people I barely knew. There was no mention of my name during the toast. No seat saved for me next to my grandchildren. Emma's daughter, Marissa, sat in what used to be my spot, the head of the table. I didn't say a word. I just watched the silverware reflect the overhead lights and realized I hadn't been a matriarch in years. I was a relic. A museum piece that no one knew how to throw away. But oh, how they tried. After dinner, I helped clear the plates, hoping for some semblance of routine, of respect. Emma caught me in the kitchen and actually scolded me. "Mom, what are you doing? Just sit down. You're going to break something." "I've washed dishes since before you were born," I said quietly. "Well, times change. People change. You should too." It was a slap wrapped in silk. And it landed harder than any hand ever could. The third piece they took was my name. A month after that dinner, I received a letter addressed to Mrs. Emma Langley, executor of the Hollings estate. I opened it, of course. I open all mail still bearing my husband's name. It was a financial statement from a mutual fund I'd helped Arthur build over 3 decades. According to the statement, the beneficiary had been changed. I called the company. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the voice on the other end said. Only the account manager can request those details. I am the account manager, I replied. No, ma'am. The voice corrected me. According to our records, you transferred that authority to your son 6 months ago. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. They had erased me. Erased my name, my authority, my ownership. I no longer existed on paper, only in memory. And if they had their way, those would vanish too. They began to tell people I was slipping, that my memory was hit or miss. It wasn't. I remembered everything, every sly glance, every eye roll, every time I was spoken over, corrected, dismissed. But the worst day, the one that etched itself into my bones, came 3 weeks later. It was a Saturday. Sunny, birds chirping, oblivious. I had dressed in my lavender cardigan, the one with pearl buttons, because Thomas said we were going to a family lunch at the community center. When we arrived, I saw tables with white cloths, neighbors chatting, some local journalists with cameras. A small banner read Hollings Family Philanthropic Trust launch event. My heart stalled. I leaned in toward Thomas. What trust? I asked. He smiled, too wide, too polished. Don't worry about it, Mom. Just a little thing we've set up. For appearances. You know how it is. No, I said. I don't. He ignored me and walked off toward the podium. Then the speeches began. Emma talked about rebuilding the community with the wealth our father left behind. Jacob spoke of legacy and responsible stewardship. And Thomas stood up last. The crowd clapped as he adjusted the microphone. We were lucky, he said. Our parents built something strong. And when our mother became less able to manage affairs, we stepped in to ensure her legacy lived on. I froze. Less able. The audience looked at me. Some with pity. Others with admiration for the children who had stepped up to care for their poor, aging mother. I stood up. I didn't plan to. My body just moved. The room quieted. I reached for the microphone. Thomas tried to block me with a gentle hand, but I shoved it away. I'm not less able, I said into the mic. My voice cracked, but it carried. I built this. With Arthur. Every brick. Every coin. You speak of legacy as if it's yours to give. You forget that I am the legacy. There was a beat of silence. Then murmurs. Then a soft, polite applause. But the damage had been done. Later that night, back at the house, Emma let loose. What the hell was that, Mom? I told the truth. You embarrassed us in front of the mayor. The press. Do you know how hard Thomas worked on that speech? Not as hard as I worked to give you a life. She didn't speak. Just stared at me. Cold. Unrecognizable. Then she turned and said, maybe it's time we got you full-time care. And that was when I knew. They didn't just want my things. They wanted me gone. There's a strange thing that happens when you've been betrayed by your own blood. It isn't rage that comes first. It's disbelief. A part of your mind refuses to accept what's plainly before you, as though the bond of family could somehow shield you from deliberate harm. But bonds can rot, and rot spreads quietly. After the charity event, I was no longer trusted to walk down the stairs by myself. Emma brought in a full-time caregiver named Janelle, a woman half my age with a too bright smile and a clipboard for every conversation. She wore pastels and walked in soft-soled shoes, as if tiptoeing through a hospice ward. Margaret, she said on her first day, I'm here to make things easier. I wanted to laugh in her face. She cooked my meals, though I preferred to do that myself. She asked intrusive questions in syrupy tones. Have you had any trouble remembering things lately? Do you sometimes feel overwhelmed or confused? All of it was logged. All of it reported. I overheard her on the phone with Thomas once. She seems lucid, but there are some inconsistencies. Inconsistencies. It was all part of their plan. A quiet paper trail. If they could get me declared mentally incompetent, they wouldn't just have control, they'd have legal justification for it. I would become a footnote in my own life. They underestimated me again. The attic was supposed to be my prison, but it became my refuge. Up there, beneath the creaking beams and boxes of memories, I began to document everything. Every conversation, every unexplained withdrawal, every lie they told the world. I kept a journal tucked beneath a loose floorboard beneath my bed. I wrote with shaking fingers, but the words came sharp and clear. It was the only place I still existed fully. I even found Arthur's old handheld tape recorder in a trunk of his college memorabilia. I began recording things. Not just memories, but evidence. Emma removed the brooch from the safe at 3:18 p.m. claimed it was for appraisal. It never returned. Thomas redirected the pension deposit to a joint account, one I was never informed about. He told the banker I was no longer mentally steady enough to handle finances. Jacob said nothing. As always, each tape was labeled and hidden behind the insulation paneling. If they ever found them, they'd toss them as relics of dementia. But I wasn't mad. I was building a case. And I knew just the man to help me when the time came. Henry West, Arthur's closest friend. A retired lawyer. He had seen me through everything from property transfers to end-of-life care discussions. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year, not since Thomas intercepted and handled all my calls. But the number was still in my head, and when Janelle went out one afternoon, yoga and groceries, she chirped. I snuck into the downstairs study and used the landline. "Henry," I whispered when he answered. "It's Margaret. I need you." He came the next day. We met in the attic. I told him everything. When I showed him Arthur's original will, his hands shook. His voice, though usually steady as stone, cracked. This changes everything." "They changed everything," I corrected him. He spent hours with me, taking notes, photographing documents, examining signatures. The forged will Thomas had presented? Sloppy. Henry spotted the inconsistencies in minutes, the wrong date format, the shaky notary seal, the misaligned margins. "They didn't expect to be challenged," he muttered. "They didn't expect me to remember," I said. I showed him the tapes, the journal, the bank statements Emma thought she'd shredded, but which I had reprinted quietly through a visiting nurse who thought she was helping me reconcile old files. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in a long time. Respect. "Margaret," he said slowly, "this is going to be a battle. They'll claim you're unwell, that you're vengeful, that you don't understand what you're doing." "I do," I said simply. "They stole my life. Now I'm taking it back." We began the legal process. Quietly, carefully, Henry filed a petition with the court to contest the will and freeze certain family-held assets pending investigation. He submitted a sealed envelope of evidence to the judge, a mix of recordings, documentation, and the will itself. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I wanted them to feel safe in their little kingdom of lies. I wanted Thomas to keep hosting his philanthropic luncheons. I wanted Emma to keep wearing my jewelry to charity events, flashing smiles like she earned them. I wanted Jacob to keep collecting his silent dividends and pretending not to know. Let them feel untouchable. The higher they built their pedestal, the harder it would crumble. But fate has a way of speeding things up. One evening, while Jacob was visiting, I accidentally left one of the journal pages on the desk in the attic. He came up, an unusual move for him, since the attic smelled like dust and old socks, to ask a question about a family recipe. He saw the page. Read the words. He didn't say anything. He folded it, slid it into his jacket pocket, and left. That night, Thomas confronted me. He didn't pretend. "Are you seriously trying to undermine everything we've done for you?" "For me." I laughed. "You buried me alive, Thomas." "You signed those papers," he growled. "Papers you lied about. You said they were routine. They were necessary. They were theft." He stepped closer. His eyes, always so eerily like his father's, narrowed into something colder. Something Arthur never showed me in 50 years. "You want to fight this?" he said. "Fine. Just remember, Mom, no one believes a woman who can't remember where she put her teeth." He left before I could respond. But his words echoed, not because they hurt, because they revealed something I hadn't dared hope for. Fear. For the first time, Thomas was afraid. Public humiliation is a bitter wine. But when served to the right people, in just the right way, it becomes the finest vintage of justice. It was Emma's birthday. She always made a show of it. Never subtle, never modest. She rented out the second floor of the Blackwood Country Club, the same place where Arthur and I had once celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. Back then, the room was filled with warmth, genuine laughter, old friends. That night, it was crammed with polished veneers and counterfeit smiles. They hadn't invited me at first. It was Jacob, perhaps guilt finally cracking his silent resolve, who mentioned it offhand while dropping off some paperwork. "You'll be there, right?" he asked. I blinked. Beware. His silence was answer enough. Later that evening, I descended the stairs on aching knees, stood in the middle of the living room, and waited until Emma looked up from her tablet. "I hear there's a party," I said. She blinked. "Oh, you mean the dinner?" "It's not really a party, Mom. Just something small. Close friends. It might be overwhelming for you. I'll manage." She pursed her lips, clearly displeased, but boxed in. She couldn't refuse me now, not without showing the crack. So she plastered on a smile. "Of course. Dress nice, all right? There might be press." That was her mistake. Press meant cameras, and cameras meant witnesses. I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in black velvet. Arthur always said it brought out my dignity, even when my bones ached and my hands had begun to tremble. My silver hair was pinned back, neat and deliberate. I wore the only piece of jewelry they hadn't taken, my wedding ring, now loose on my finger but unyielding in its symbolism. The room was a jungle of artifice. Gold-trimmed chairs. A string quartet playing music no one was listening to. Servers floated through with champagne flutes. Emma stood near the center, draped in a crimson cocktail dress that was far too loud for her complexion. She saw me and hesitated, just a beat, but then rushed over with that painted-on concern. "Mom, you made it. I wasn't sure you'd feel up to it." "I'm quite capable of sitting at a table," I replied. She ushered me toward the far corner. Away from the family. Away from the spotlight. A table with elderly donors and a half-deaf pianist. Perfect. They thought I'd sulk. I waited. I watched as Thomas greeted donors with handshakes and empty promises. I watched Jacob laugh too hard at a joke he didn't understand. And I watched Emma pose for a photographer from the local magazine, adjusting her necklace, my necklace, so it caught the light just right. The program began shortly after dinner was served. Thomas was the first to speak. He talked about legacy, about upholding the Hollings name, about the selflessness of our dear mother, who, in her wisdom, entrusted us with the responsibility to carry forth her and our father's legacy. Entrusted. The word snapped like a trap. I rose from my seat. Heads turned. Thomas faltered on the microphone. Emma's smile froze. I walked slowly, deliberately, across the polished floor until I reached the edge of the stage. I could feel the silence tighten like a net. "Thomas," I said. "May I?" He hesitated. I could see the calculation in his eyes. If he said no, it would look suspicious. But if he said yes, he stepped back. I took the microphone. "Good evening," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. There's power in stillness. I'm Margaret Hollings. This estate, this name, this family, it all started with Arthur and me. Many of you knew us as a team. You watched us build from nothing. You watched our children grow. I paused, letting the quiet settle. And tonight, I want to correct a story. A story that's been told in half-truths. My children say I entrusted them with everything, that I willingly gave over control, out of love, out of wisdom. That's not true. Now there were murmurs. Cell phones lowered. Eyes sharpened. I never gave anything. I was deceived. My signatures were obtained under false pretenses. My accounts were rerouted without my consent. And the will of my late husband, Arthur Hollings, was altered. Forged. Gasps. One woman covered her mouth. Another whispered something to her husband, who immediately turned to look at Thomas. Emma took a step forward, but I raised my hand, not to strike, but to silence. I have documentation. Originals. Audio recordings. Legal filings have already begun. The truth is coming, and it will be public. Because this, I gestured around the room, this is the dinner before the reckoning. And then I handed the microphone back. I walked away as the room began to buzz, as heads turned toward my children with suspicion, confusion, and in some cases, disgust. I didn't look back. We drove home in silence. Thomas didn't speak. His jaw clenched so tightly I thought he might crack a molar. Emma was the first to explode. What the hell was that, Mom? Do you want to destroy us? You destroyed yourselves, I said, staring out the window. I'm just clearing the smoke. You're senile, she hissed. Everyone knows it. Then they'll be surprised when the evidence isn't. You're not well, Thomas added coldly. You've embarrassed yourself. You've embarrassed all of us. I turned to him. No, Thomas. You did that. I just gave it a name. Back at the house, Jacob stopped me in the hallway. He looked like a man about to drown. I didn't sign anything, he whispered. They handled all the paperwork. But you knew, I said gently, and you did nothing. I didn't think you'd ever fight back. That hurt more than anything. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd buried the idea that I was ever strong enough to stop them. But I was. I am. And now the whole town knew. They always told me that secrets don't last in small towns. That word moves faster than wind here, slithering through cracks and down alleys until there's nowhere left to hide. They were right. By morning, my name was on every tongue in Blackwood. But not as the feeble old matriarch. No. This time, it was different. Did you hear what Margaret Hollings said at the country club? She stood right up and called them thieves. She said the wool was forged. She is proof. The whispers were loud enough to rattle the windows. And the louder they got, the more my children tried to pretend they didn't exist. The first fallout came at Thomas's office. He ran a boutique financial advisory firm downtown. He prided himself on discretion, on trust, qualities that melted the moment word spread that he'd allegedly manipulated his own mother out of her estate. 2 clients dropped him within a day. By the end of the week, 4 more followed. His assistant, a young man named Rory who'd once helped me carry groceries when Thomas forgot I existed, resigned and posted a very long, very polite message on social media. I cannot, in good conscience, continue working for someone who may have betrayed the very values he sells to his clients. It went viral. Thomas told everyone it was slander, that I was confused, that I'd always been a little dramatic in her old age. But people remembered. They remembered me at community fairs, at bake sales, running the church bazaar for over 20 years. They remembered Arthur, who never once asked for applause but earned it anyway. And they remembered how, after his death, I quietly disappeared from view, vanished into a house that suddenly stopped sending out Christmas cards. Now they understood why. Emma fared worse. She'd built her reputation on appearances. She ran in charity circles, held luncheons, sat on school boards and women's councils. But now every flash of her diamond necklace was followed by a murmur. That used to belong to her mother, didn't it? 2 weeks after the dinner, she was asked, publicly and without pretense, to step down from the planning committee of the Blackwood Arts Foundation. We feel, the chairwoman had said, that until the matter is resolved, your presence may distract from the foundation's goals. Emma was stunned. She called me that night, venom dripping from every syllable. Are you happy now? She spat. You've turned people against us. No, I replied. You did that yourself. I just turned on the light. You'll regret this. I've regretted trusting you. I've regretted raising a daughter who doesn't understand the difference between love and exploitation. But I won't regret speaking the truth. She hung up. Good. Jacob, Ever the ghost, began to unravel more slowly. He was never as visible as the others, but the press reached him too. A reporter from the Blackwood Ledger came knocking, asking why his name was on asset transfer forms dating back 2 years, transfers that stripped me of decision-making rights without any court intervention. He claimed ignorance, claimed his siblings handled everything, but the court filing named him alongside them, and silence, as the town soon realized, is not innocence. He stopped visiting after that. I can't say I missed him. Meanwhile, the case began to move. Henry filed a formal petition to the probate court, attaching Arthur's original will and a forensic handwriting report from a specialist who confirmed the signatures on the updated documents were inconsistent with my real ones. We added copies of my journal entries, bank statements, and voice recordings. Each detail was cataloged, verified, and submitted. The judge issued a temporary injunction. All sales, transfers, and access to my estate were to be frozen pending the outcome. That meant no one could sell the house. No one could access the trust funds. And suddenly, the air in the Hollings household grew very cold. The attic, once a place they banished me to, became a war room. I spent my evenings listening to the recordings, organizing files, and reading through every legal reply Henry sent me. He was sharp as ever, but this time he didn't treat me like a frail widow. He treated me like a general. And I was. This was my campaign. One night, I overheard Thomas and Emma arguing downstairs. "She's bluffing," Thomas hissed. "No, she's not," Emma snapped. "You didn't see her face that night. She's serious. And she has the town on her side now. She has a lawyer and a will. That's it. She is everything. We look like monsters, Tom." There was a silence. Then Jacob's voice, quieter than the rest. "She's not the one falling apart, you two are." I leaned closer to the attic vent. I could almost see their faces, 3 grown children, once so confident, now floundering in the dark. "We need a strategy," Thomas said. "If this goes to court, we could lose everything." "She's old," Emma muttered. "Maybe we can claim diminished capacity." "Dementia. The tapes won't hold up." I smiled. They still didn't get it. This wasn't about dementia. It wasn't even about the will anymore. This was about me. A mother. A wife. A woman who sacrificed everything for the people now trying to erase her. Later that week, a neighbor approached me at the grocery store. Yes, I went myself. No nurse. No escort. Just me and a cloth bag full of defiance. "Margaret," she said, her voice cautious but kind. "Is it true? About your children?" I met her eyes. "Yes," I said. "It's all true." She looked sad. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I replied. "I may have lost everything, but now they're losing too. And I still have something they don't." "What's that?" "Time." She looked confused. But I walked away with a steady gait, my wedding ring cold on my finger. The first time Arthur showed me the hidden panel in his study, we were newly married and the house still smelled like fresh plaster. He was building bookshelves by hand, sanding each corner until it gleamed. When I asked why one panel didn't match the others, he only smiled and tapped the wood. "Every home needs a place for secrets," he said. "Just in case." At the time, I thought it was charming. A playful eccentricity, like his habit of hiding notes in my cookbooks or slipping handwritten riddles into my purse. But standing in that room again now, converted into a meditation space by Emma, stripped of its soul, I realized it hadn't been eccentricity. It had been preparation. The bookshelf was still there, albeit repainted in a hideous off-white and adorned with decorative candles and fake ivy. I waited until the house was empty, pulled a pair of gloves from my cardigan pocket, and began removing objects one by one. The panel was where I remembered. I pressed against it. There was a click, and the wood shifted inward just slightly. I reached into the shallow compartment and pulled out the envelope I had retrieved once before, in the event of my death. But beneath that envelope, pressed flat against the wood, was something I hadn't noticed the first time. A false bottom. I hesitated. Then I slipped my fingers beneath it and tugged. Out slid a smaller package, wrapped in wax paper, sealed with twine, brittle with age. I unfolded it carefully and found inside a handwritten letter from Arthur, a sealed envelope addressed to Henry West, a USB drive, and an old photograph I had never seen before. My hands trembled, but not from weakness. From knowing that Arthur had seen this coming. That even in death, he was trying to protect me. I unfolded the letter first. My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, it means you've already discovered what our children have become. It pains me to write that sentence. I had always hoped they would grow into better versions of us, not colder ones. I've watched Thomas build ambition like a monument to himself. I've seen Emma measure worth in appearances. And Jacob, poor Jacob, he follows shadows instead of light. I wanted to believe they'd change. But as I near the end, I realize love isn't always enough to raise a good person. This house is yours. Every account. Every asset. Every damn memory we ever built. If they try to take it, fight. You have more strength than you know. Inside this packet is what they can't refute. I've gathered emails, bank statements, signatures, copies of everything I suspected they might someday try to erase. Henry knows what to do with it. I've also included something else. Something I never had the courage to tell you. Open the second envelope only when you're ready. I love you. I have always loved you. And I am sorry I'm not there to stand beside you. Arthur, I sat back, stunned. He knew. Not just suspected, knew. I stared at the USB drive in my hand. That night, I went back to the attic, plugged it into Janelle's old laptop, the one she left behind when she was reassigned, and waited. It opened instantly. A series of folders, all neatly labeled /property transfers /forged documents /Emma's account /photos /voice memos /Jacob emails. Each folder contained damning evidence. In one audio file, Thomas could be heard discussing power of attorney forms with a lawyer, laughing as he said, "Don't worry, she won't understand a thing she's signing." In another, Emma was recorded instructing a jeweler to clean up these pieces for sale, but don't list them under my name. Emails from Jacob to Thomas read like confessionals. Mum's getting suspicious. Maybe we should look into medication options. There it was. In black and white. Proof. Arthur had built his own shadow archive. And now it belonged to me. The sealed envelope addressed to Henry was heavier than it looked. I opened it only after a full hour of pacing, too rattled to sit still. Inside was another letter, brief, blunt, and in Arthur's handwriting. Henry, if Margaret brings you this, you know what's happened. I'm asking you, no, instructing you, to initiate a secondary clause in the event of fraud. The power is still legal, though buried deep. Enclosed is the key document, a transfer of emergency authority, only to be used if the estate is compromised. She'll need your help. Give her mine. A.H. Taped beneath the letter was a single legal page, Emergency Estate Protection Order, drafted and signed 5 years ago. It transferred all financial authority, including frozen assets and contested property, back to me in the event of demonstrable misconduct by the appointed heirs. I held it in my hands, stunned. He had built me a weapon. Quiet. Legal. Inarguable. Arthur always did play the long game. Henry was speechless when I brought him the files. He sat in his study, thumbing through the letters, eyes wide behind his glasses. I thought he'd let it go, he murmured. I thought he'd trusted them. No, I said. He trusted me. Within 2 days, Henry submitted a motion to the probate court to invoke the emergency order. He also filed a request for an independent investigator to audit the Hollings estate. And then, just to ensure the fire spread wide enough, he forwarded anonymous packages of Arthur's evidence to 3 journalists, including the reporter from the Blackwood Ledger. 3 days later, the article dropped, Hollings family under investigation, Documents reveal long-term financial exploitation of widow by own children. There were photos, audio, names. People stopped Thomas on the street. Emma's face was scrubbed from the Arts Foundation website. Jacob's friends stopped answering his calls. And me? I poured myself a cup of tea, curled up in the attic armchair Arthur once called the Queen's Throne, and watched the storm I didn't have to lift a finger to create. The first time I walked barefoot through the garden again, the weeds brushed against my ankles like whispers. The lemon tree was still there, half dead, branches tangled like old grief. I stood beside it and remembered the day Arthur planted it. He said it would be our legacy, something that would outlast both of us. But like everything else in this house, it had been left to rot. Not anymore. That morning, I trimmed the dead branches myself. I pulled weeds with brittle fingers, unearthed roots that had no business surviving, and breathed. For the first time in years, I breathed like I had lungs again. The media storm had settled into a low burn. Headlines still circled, articles still trickled out, mostly speculating on court dates and outcomes. But the court of public opinion had already made its decision. The Hollings children weren't misunderstood anymore. They were exposed. And I was visible. The woman in the attic had become the woman in the center. One by one, things returned. The jewelry first. Delivered in a velvet-lined box by a courier with trembling hands. No note. Just silence wrapped in guilt. Then the furniture, Arthur's desk, my oak hutch, even the original dining table they had moved into storage, all returned under cover of early morning deliveries. As though, if they restored the objects, they could repair the betrayal. But I didn't want restoration. I wanted reckoning, and it was coming. Henry called me with updates every week. The emergency transfer was approved, he said one Thursday. The accounts are back in your name, and the court has granted your petition to void all prior transactions based on fraud. That includes the house? I asked. All of it, he said. It's yours again. Legally. Permanently. I closed my eyes and let the moment settle. It didn't feel like victory. Not yet. It felt like the end of mourning. But with that came something new. Clarity. One afternoon, I called a locksmith and had every lock in the house changed. When Thomas arrived that evening, he tried his key. It didn't turn. I watched from the upstairs window as he rattled the knob, checked his pockets, and finally banged on the door. I didn't move. He rang the bell twice. Then a third time. I opened the window just enough to let my voice carry. It's no longer your home. Mom, you took everything from me, I said. You don't get to ask for kindness now. He looked up, anger surging like a second skin. You can't just lock me out. I can, I said calmly. And I have. You want something? Go through my lawyer. You're destroying the family. No. You did that when you sold your father's study without telling me. I closed the window. His shouting faded into nothing. A week later, Emma tried. She didn't come to the house. She sent a letter, handwritten on thick paper, dripping with false sentiment. Mom, I know things have been hard lately. I want to apologize for any misunderstanding. I was trying to protect what Dad built. We all were. Maybe we didn't do it the right way, but our intentions were never malicious. We were scared. We didn't want to lose you. Can we meet? Just the two of us? Talk like we used to? Love, Emma, I didn't respond. She hadn't tried to protect Arthur's legacy. She tried to inherit it while I was still alive. She wanted to talk now because the mask had been ripped off and there were no more benefits to pretending. So I gave her nothing. Jacob came last. He showed up on a Sunday alone, holding a photo album. He didn't knock right away, just stood outside, looking at the door. I opened it slowly. He looked exhausted. Older. Like the weight of his silence had finally taken its toll. I found this in storage, he said, handing me the album. Thought you might want it. It was our family photo book. Every Christmas, every birthday, every memory I'd thought they'd tossed in a skip bin. I held it to my chest. Why now? I asked. Because I don't want to pretend anymore, he said. I let it happen. I stood by. And I'm sorry. I studied him. The eyes were still mine, still familiar. You didn't take the knife, I said. But you watched them stab me with it. He nodded. And I can't fix that, he said. I just wanted to say it. Out loud. To your face. It was the only apology that came close to meaning something. I didn't invite him in. But I didn't slam the door. That was enough for now. At the next court hearing, the judge ruled decisively. All fraudulent transfers were reversed. All documents forged or signed under false pretenses were nullified. My estate was restored in full. The Hollings children were ordered to repay what they had liquidated, though the court knew much of it was already gone. But the judgment was permanent. Public. Scarring. I didn't smile in the courtroom. I simply stood, nodded once to the judge, and walked out, cane tapping softly against the marble floor. Outside, a reporter rushed up. Mrs. Hollings, do you have anything to say to others going through something similar? I looked into the camera lens. Yes, I said. Don't let them bury you while you're still breathing. Back home, I sat beneath the lemon tree. The sun filtered through the branches, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost haunting my own life. The past was burned, but from the ashes, I was building something again. Not for them. For me. It started with thunder. Not the kind that rumbles from the sky, but the kind that brews in a town too small to hold its secrets. By the time I stepped out onto the porch that morning, the wind had already changed. Neighbors who used to look through me now nodded. Some offered sympathetic smiles. One woman left a pie on my steps. Peach, still warm. The town had decided. And so had I. The court rulings were done. The estate was mine again. But the damage wasn't just legal, it was personal. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 76 years, it's that family wounds don't heal on their own. They rot if left untouched. So I made a decision. I called the town paper and asked for an interview. Not about the case, I told them. About what it means to be forgotten. About what happens when your children turn into strangers. The young journalist, a girl named Lydia with ink-stained fingers and too much empathy in her eyes, said yes immediately. We met on the front porch. I served tea, like always. She asked careful questions, scribbled notes, recorded my words. I didn't hold back. They moved me to the attic, I told her, while wearing my pearls. That's what betrayal looks like when it's dressed in good manners. She blinked. And I went on. They told people I was confused. That I wasn't well. But the truth is, I was inconvenient. I remembered too much. Asked too many questions. Why speak now? She asked softly. Because I want other women, especially older women, to know that silence isn't a virtue when you're being erased. The interview went live the next day. It lit a match. The storm came fast after that. An invitation arrived from the Blackwood Women's League. They were hosting their annual gala, a night of recognition for women in the community. And this year, they wanted to honor me. Emma had once co-chaired that committee. The irony wasn't lost on me. The theme was legacy in action. I smiled at the phrase when I read it. Once, that word, legacy, was stolen from me. Now, I would define it on my terms. I accepted the invitation. And I knew exactly what I would wear. My navy blue gown. The one Arthur loved. The one with a pearl clasp on the collar. And my wedding ring. Still loose, still sacred. I didn't arrive with fanfare. I walked in alone, cane tapping against marble, head held high. The crowd parted like the sea. Some reached out to touch my arm. Some offered whispers of support. But I walked straight to the stage when my name was called. Lydia, the young journalist, introduced me. Tonight, she said, we honor a woman who reminds us that strength has no expiration date. That silence isn't always wisdom, and that reclaiming your voice, no matter your age, is an act of courage. I stepped up to the microphone. The lights were hot, the room so quiet you could hear breathing. I didn't come here tonight to talk about money, I began. I came here to talk about love, and what it becomes when it curdles. A rustle in the audience. I loved my children. Still do in some ways. But they forgot that love doesn't give you the right to erase someone, to make decisions for them, to speak over them. I paused, scanning the crowd. Thomas was there. So was Emma. Jacob too. All sitting near the back. Not invited, but unable to stay away. They told me I was losing my mind, I said. They told others the same thing. Because it's easier to strip power from a woman if you convince the world she doesn't know what she's doing. But I knew. I always knew. I let that hang in the air. And then I said the thing I had never said aloud, not in court, not to Henry, not even to Arthur. I forgave them once. When they took my name off the accounts. When they boxed up my photos. When they handed my bedroom over to a teenager who barely knew my favorite color. I forgave them because I believed they didn't understand what they were doing. But they did. Gasps. They made a choice. One they wore like fine clothing. And now they have to live with it. I stepped away from the microphone. The room exploded with applause, except for the back row. Thomas stared down at his hands. Emma blinked rapidly, mascara trembling. Jacob's shoulders hunched forward, his head bowed. They looked so small, so fragile, so human. I felt nothing. Later that night, I stepped outside for air. The gardens of the event hall were quiet, lit by string lights and memory. And then I heard footsteps. Mother. It was Emma. She stood there in a black sheath dress, eyes swollen from tears she hadn't yet earned. I know you hate me, she said. I don't, I replied. Hate takes effort. You're just not my responsibility anymore. I didn't mean to, you did. And you continued, long after you could have stopped. That's what makes it unforgivable. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You lost access to my life. That doesn't mean you've lost access to your own. Go fix it. But don't bring your broken tools back here. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. At home, I poured myself a drink, one of Arthur's old scotches, dusty and forgotten in the cabinet. I raised a glass to the lemon tree outside the window. The branches were blooming again. And I thought of something Arthur once said when we'd lost everything in the recession of '89. Sometimes you have to let the fire take it all. Then you build from the ashes, not the ruins. He was right. The storm had come. And now I stood in its quiet center, older, wiser, sharper. Not ruined. Rebuilt. In a small town like Blackwood, the front window is a stage. It's where we wave at passing neighbors, where we glance out and pretend not to watch, and where we learn exactly how the world sees us when it thinks we're not looking. After the gala, I spent hours at that window. Not hiding, watching. And the town watched back. But something had changed. Where once there were sideways glances and whispered pity, now there was acknowledgement. Reverence, even. The local florist, Marianne, dropped by with a bouquet of white lilies the morning after my speech. She didn't stay long. Just handed me the flowers and said, "Thank you for saying what so many of us never could." Later that week, a teenage girl stopped me outside the library. I didn't recognize her. She had chipped black nail polish, eyes ringed with eyeliner, and a voice full of hesitation. My grandmother, she said, they won't let her keep her house. They say it's for her own good. But she doesn't want to leave. I looked into the girl's eyes. Then you fight for her, I said. Or help her fight for herself. She nodded. That's how it began. Small visits. Quiet messages. Letters tucked into my mailbox from women I'd never met, some older, some younger. They told me about lost homes, silent manipulations, sons and daughters who meant well as they quietly stripped away autonomy. They thanked me, and I didn't know what to do with their gratitude. I hadn't asked for it. I hadn't spoken for applause. But still, it came. One letter, from a woman named Claire in the next town over, struck something deep. Margaret, when I saw you speak at the gala, I was reminded of my mother. She died in a care home 3 years ago. She didn't want to be there. She begged to stay in her house. But we were convinced we knew best. We told her she was forgetful. We said it was for her safety. We sold her house before she passed. Now I live with that choice every day. Thank you for reminding me that sometimes love is a question, not an answer. Claire, I sat with that letter for a long time, because for all their cruelty, I had to admit, my children believed what they were doing made sense. They had dressed theft in the clothing of care. They told themselves that I was better off not worrying about the burden of money, property, decisions. They convinced themselves that control was mercy, and maybe for a while I let them believe it. That was my mistake. One Sunday, I found Henry sitting on my front steps. He held a small box in his lap, worn at the corners, wrapped in plain twine. I came to return this, he said. He handed me the box. Inside was a collection of old photos, Arthur and me at our wedding, the kids when they were small, our first Christmas in this house. Beneath the stack was something else, a cassette tape, labeled in Arthur's handwriting. If she forgets, remind her who she is. I stared at it for a long moment. Play it, Henry urged. So we did. The sound was scratchy, but Arthur's voice came through clearly. Maggie, if you're listening to this, you're probably mad I didn't tell you about all this sooner. That's fair. But you need to know something. Something I probably should have said more often. You are the strongest person I've ever known. You held this family together when I broke. You raised 3 children through recessions, illness, doubt. You gave up your career, your savings, your time. And when we had nothing, you still made it look like everything. If they ever try to make you small, play this. If you ever forget who you are, play this. Because I remember. I always remembered. And if I could come back, I'd stand next to you in this fight. But you don't need me. You've always been the one with fire in her bones. I love you, Arthur, I cried. Not the way I did when he died. Not the gasping, wild grief of loss. This was something quieter, deeper, a release, like the house itself sighed with me. That week, I made a decision. The attic would no longer be my retreat. It would become a space for others. I converted it into a writing room, filled it with extra chairs, kept a kettle, blank notebooks, a tray of wrapped candies. And I invited the women who had written to me to come and share their stories if they wanted. Some did. We talked. We wrote. We laughed in that space that once held my silence. We called ourselves the Lemon Tree Society, because even when life sours, you can grow something sweet. One of the women, Lorraine, brought a quote that we pinned to the wall. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. It stayed there. Still does. As for my children, they visit less. Thomas moved to the city. I heard he started a new firm under a different name. Emma's divorce was finalized. Her husband filed shortly after the scandal. She never apologized again. Jacob sent me a letter. Just one. Mom, I hope the lemon tree is still blooming. I still remember the day we planted it. You let me hold the watering can. I think I spilled most of it on my shoes. If you ever feel like seeing me, I'll be here. Love, Jacob. I haven't replied. Not yet. But I keep the letter in my drawer. Not for him. For me. Because even when we gather the ashes, even when we rebuild from ruin, there are still pieces of the past we choose to carry. Not as wounds, but as reminders. It was Thomas who suggested the meeting. An email arrived, brief and too polite. Mom, we'd like to talk. Just the 3 of us. No lawyers. No press. Just family. Dinner next Sunday? At your house, if that's all right. Thomas the first stared at it for a long time. At first, I considered ignoring it. Then I thought, let them come. Let them sit in the house they tried to steal, drink from cups I bought, stare at the walls they repainted in their own image, only to have it all returned to me. Let them feel, for once, what it means to occupy space on someone else's terms. I responded with one word. Yes. I set the table the way I always used to. Linen napkins folded with care. My best china, not out of sentiment, but because I knew it would make Emma squirm. Roast chicken, garlic potatoes, lemon tarts. Tea steeping in the blue porcelain teapot Arthur gave me for our 25th anniversary. I wore the pearl earrings they hadn't found. The dress they'd once deemed too old-fashioned. And I waited. They arrived late. Of course they did. Emma walked in first, wearing her discomfort like perfume. Thomas followed, jacket pressed, expression unreadable. Jacob entered last, looking like a man who didn't know where to put his hands. I gestured to the table. They sat. No one touched the food. Thank you for having us, Thomas said. I poured tea. The sound filled the silence. Then I looked at each of them. What do you want? Emma shifted in her seat. We wanted to reconnect. Too late, I said. Jacob flinched. Thomas cleared his throat. We know we made mistakes. We handled things wrong. But we thought, no, I interrupted. You didn't handle things wrong. You handled them exactly how you intended. You just didn't expect me to resist. Emma frowned. It wasn't about hurting you. It was about removing me, I said. Not all at once. Bit by bit. You called it care. You called it protection. But you made decisions for me, about me, without me. We thought you were slipping, Thomas said quietly. You hoped I was, I corrected him. Because it made everything easier to justify. The room fell still. The only sound was the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. I leaned forward. This isn't a dinner. This isn't an apology. This is guilt, dressed as civility. But I'm not here to soothe your conscience. Mum, Jacob began. I'm not finished, I said. They stopped. I'm not going to pretend this never happened. I'm not going to smile at birthdays and sit quietly at future tables like nothing changed. Because it did. You changed it. I was angry, Emma whispered. I was scared. About money. About control. About losing. You already lost, I said. The moment you decided to take instead of ask. There were tears in her eyes, but I didn't move. Thomas stared at his plate. His jaw clenched. Jacob looked down at his hands. I stood. You want forgiveness? Go find it in the mirror. You won't get it here. And then, gently, without malice, I lifted the teapot and poured a final cup. For me, I said. They watched. Not one of them touched their plates. Not one of them asked for more. When they left, they did so in silence. They didn't take leftovers. They didn't ask when they could come again. And I didn't offer. After they were gone, I stood by the window. The lemon tree swayed in the evening wind. Its blossoms were full again. Strong. Enduring. I still live in the house they tried to erase me from. Every morning, I open the windows wide and let in the air. I sit in the attic, now my writing room, and host the Lemon Tree Society once a week. We drink tea. We write our stories. We remind each other that it's never too late to reclaim a voice. People ask me, sometimes, if I ever speak to my children. I do. Once a year. I send them a card on the anniversary of the court ruling. Blank. No message. No signature. Just my name embossed on the envelope. They don't deserve more. And I don't owe it. Because survival isn't always about rising from the ashes. Sometimes, it's about sitting calmly beside them with your hands folded, your heart intact, and the fire behind you no longer chasing, but following. Here the story ends. Thanks for watching. Hit like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more true and real stories.